What if I told you that one of the biggest stars in the world didn't just go live to vent? She went live and said something so dark, so raw, that even her own fans didn't know how to react? Because when Cardi B hit that live session, nobody expected this. Thousands were listening. The energy was already tense. You could hear it in her voice, anger, frustration, something deeper than just another celebrity rant. And then she said it. She didn't hesitate. She didn't sugarcoat it. She said she wanted Offset to suffer, to feel pain, to be alone with the thoughts of everything he did. And just like that, the internet froze. Because this wasn't drama anymore. This wasn't entertainment. This felt personal, dangerous even. People immediately started asking, what could push a woman this far? Because this isn't just some random relationship. This is Cardi B and Offset, the same couple that once looked untouchable. The same couple that went from secret marriage to public proposals, to building a family in front of millions. So how do you go from that to wishing that kind of pain on someone? At first, people thought it was just anger in the moment, but then more details started coming out. Legal battles, money disputes, missed visits with their kids, and things that allegedly happened behind the scenes, things Cardi says broke her completely. And suddenly, that one sentence didn't feel random anymore. It felt like the final explosion after years of silence. Because, according to what's now being revealed, this didn't start overnight. This was building, piece by piece, moment by moment, until there was nothing left to hold it back. And if even half of what she's saying is true, then this isn't just a breakup story. This is something much darker, something much deeper. And the real question isn't just why she said it. It's, what did Offset do that pushed her to that point? To understand how things got this dark, you have to go all the way back to the beginning, before the fights, before the headlines, before the chaos. Back when Cardi B and Offset looked like the perfect match. Because believe it or not, this didn't start toxic. It started fast, intense, almost unreal. They met around 2016, two completely different energies colliding at the perfect moment. Offset was already a superstar, riding high with Migos, dominating charts, and redefining the sound of hip-hop. Cardi was the rising force, raw, unapologetic, and impossible to ignore. And when those two worlds collided, it wasn't slow, it wasn't careful, it was explosive. Within months, they went from private moments to public appearances. Fans watched it unfold in real time, every look, every interaction, every hint of chemistry. And then came the moment that made it official, Super Bowl weekend. They stepped out together, hand in hand, and just like that, the world knew something serious was happening. But here's the twist most people didn't know at the time. They didn't just fall in love quickly, they moved even faster behind the scenes. Because while the world was still watching them date, they had already taken things to another level. A secret decision. A private moment. No cameras, no audience. Just them. They got married. And nobody knew. Not until months later. When documents surfaced and everything flipped, fans were shocked. The internet went crazy. But for them, it made sense. Because according to Cardi, their relationship was already intense, full of ups and downs, breakups and makeups, emotions running at full speed. They didn't want to lose each other, so they locked it in. And for a moment, it actually looked like it worked. Because soon after that, everything started lining up. The music, the fame, the family. When Cardi B revealed her pregnancy on live television, it felt like the perfect turning point. A powerful moment that made it seem like they had moved past the chaos and into something real. They welcomed their daughter, built their family, showed up together. And from the outside, it looked like a success story. But behind that image, something was already breaking. Because while fans were celebrating them, the cracks were forming quietly. And the first real sign that something was wrong didn't come from a headline. It came from whispers. Allegations started surfacing. Rumors that Offset had been unfaithful. At first, people didn't believe it. Every celebrity couple deals with rumors. It comes with the territory. But this time, it didn't go away. More stories came out. More names got mentioned. And then, things escalated. Because suddenly, it wasn't just talk anymore. There were claims, apologies, public statements, and the situation got messy fast. Cardi tried to hold it together, at least publicly. But behind the scenes, the damage was already done. Because betrayal like that doesn't just disappear. It sits there. It builds. It changes everything. And that's exactly what started happening. The relationship turned into a cycle. Break up. Make up. Break again. Then try to fix it all over again. Over and over. Each time, it got harder. Each time, it got more public. Each time, it chipped away at whatever was left. And then came one of the most unforgettable moments. When Offset tried to win her back in front of the entire world, he showed up to her performance with flowers, with a grand gesture, with everything designed to say, "I'm sorry." To some people, it looked romantic. To others, it looked desperate. Because the truth was, things weren't okay anymore. Not really. Even when they got back together, it didn't feel the same. The trust was already broken. And once trust is gone, everything else starts falling apart. But here's what makes this story even more complicated. Because despite everything, the cheating, the drama, the public embarrassment, they kept coming back to each other, again and again. Why? That's the part nobody fully understands. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was history. Maybe it was the family they built together. Or maybe it was something neither of them knew how to let go of. But whatever it was, it kept them locked in a cycle that only got more intense with time. More arguments, more headlines, more moments that played out in front of millions. Until eventually, it stopped being about fixing things and started becoming about surviving the damage. Because by the time things reached 2024, this wasn't just a struggling relationship anymore. It was something else entirely, something heavier, something that couldn't be solved with apologies or grand gestures anymore. And that's when everything started escalating, faster than anyone expected. Because what happened next wasn't just another breakup. It was the beginning of a war that would push both of them to their absolute limit. Because once 2024 hit, everything changed. This wasn't the same cycle anymore. This wasn't just another breakup waiting to turn into a makeup. This time, it escalated into something way more serious. Behind the scenes, things were already tense, but when Cardi B officially filed for divorce again, people thought this was finally the end. No more back and forth, no more second chances. But what nobody expected was how fast things would spiral after that. Because instead of going quiet, the situation got louder. Much louder. According to what started surfacing online, Cardi wasn't just dealing with heartbreak anymore, she was dealing with what she described as emotional pressure that didn't stop even after the relationship was over. Late night messages, voicemails, constant attempts to pull her back into the chaos. Now again, these are allegations, not confirmed facts. But the way she described it, it sounded like something that had been building for a long time. And then came the moment that pushed everything over the edge. Because in one explosive live session, Cardi B didn't just vent, she unloaded. She claimed that things had gone beyond cheating, beyond arguments, into something much darker. She hinted at private moments being used against her. She talked about feeling emotionally drained. She even suggested that someone was trying to break her mentally. And suddenly, the tone of the story changed. This wasn't just toxic love anymore. This felt like a war. Because if even part of what she was saying is true, then this wasn't about two people who couldn't make it work. This was about two people who couldn't escape each other. And then came the twist that made everything worse. Money. Because just when things were already at their breaking point, reports started circulating that Offset was dealing with serious financial pressure, tax issues, debt, legal complications. And right in the middle of all that, he allegedly made a move that shocked everyone. He asked for spousal support from Cardi. And that was the moment everything exploded. Because from Cardi's perspective, this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was disrespect. Here was a woman handling her own career, her own business, her own responsibilities, raising their kids, building her empire, and now the same man she claims hurt her was asking her to support him financially. That's when the anger turned into something else. Something sharper, something personal. Because in that moment, it wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about everything she felt she had given and everything she believed he took. And that's when those words came out. The ones that shocked the world. The ones that made headlines. The ones people are still talking about. Because when someone reaches that level of anger, it doesn't come from one moment. It comes from everything that led up to it. And just when people thought they had seen the worst of it, another twist hit. This time, from the courtroom. Because in a move that nobody expected, Offset reportedly pushed for DNA testing involving the children. And that changed everything. Because now this wasn't just about money or arguments anymore. This was about family, trust, respect. And once something like that enters the situation, there's no going back. Fans were shocked. Social media went crazy. And the narrative shifted again. Because now people weren't just asking who was right. They were asking, how did it get this far? And just when it felt like the situation couldn't get any more intense, reality stepped in the most unexpected way. Because in the middle of all this chaos, something happened to Offset that nobody could ignore. A violent incident. A moment that instantly reminded everyone just how real things can get, outside of social media, outside of headlines. And suddenly, everything slowed down. Because when something like that happens, all the drama, all the arguments, all the anger, it hits differently. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Because despite everything, despite the words, despite the accusations, there were reports that Cardi B still checked on him. And that single detail, it confused everyone. Because how do you go from wishing that kind of pain on someone to still caring enough to check if they're okay? That contradiction, that emotional pull, that's what makes this story so much deeper than it looks. Because this isn't just hate, it's something more complicated, something unfinished, something that neither of them seems able to completely walk away from. And that's what makes the next part even more intense. Because now, the public isn't just watching the drama anymore. They're picking sides. And once that happens, everything gets louder, everything gets messier, and everything gets way more dangerous. And that's exactly what happened next. The internet didn't just watch it pick sides. And once that line was drawn, there was no going back. On one side, you had people defending Cardi B, saying no one reaches that level of anger without a reason. They pointed to everything she claimed, emotional stress, betrayal, feeling disrespected, and said, this didn't come out of nowhere. To them, this wasn't just a rant. It was the result of years of damage finally exploding in public. But on the other side, you had people defending Offset. They argued that no matter what happened, wishing that kind of harm on someone crosses a line. They pointed to his calmer public responses, the way he talked about moving on peacefully, and said the truth might not be as one-sided as it seems. And just like that, this stopped being a relationship story. It became a full-blown public battle. Social media turned into a war zone. Fans were debating non-stop. Clips were being reposted with different narratives. Every statement was being twisted, analyzed, and used as evidence. One side saying, she's finally speaking her truth. The other saying, there's more to the story we're not hearing. And the more people argued, the bigger the story got. Because now, it wasn't just about what happened between them. It was about what people believe. And belief, that's what keeps a story alive. But here's where things take an even deeper turn. Because when you look past the noise, past the arguments, past the viral clips, you start to notice something else. Something that makes this whole situation feel heavier. Because despite everything, the anger, the accusations, the public humiliation, there's still a connection between them that hasn't completely broken. And that's what makes it so unpredictable. Because in stories like this, you expect a clear ending. One person walks away, the other moves on. The chapter closes. But here, that hasn't happened. Not fully. Because even while all this is going on, they're still tied together by their children, by their history, by everything they built over the years. And that makes every move, every statement, every reaction matter more. Because it's not just about them anymore. It's about everything connected to them. And that's why people can't stop watching. Because deep down, everyone is wondering the same thing. Is this really the end? Or is this just another chapter in a story that refuses to finish? And just when it feels like things might start cooling down, another twist always seems to appear. Another headline, another moment. Another reminder that this situation is far from over. Because the truth is, we still don't have all the answers. We don't know what really happened behind closed doors. We don't know which version of the story is closer to reality. And we definitely don't know what's coming next. But what we do know is that this isn't over. Not even close. Because when emotions run this deep, when history runs this long, and when everything plays out in front of millions, Stories like this don't just end quietly. They keep evolving. They keep pulling people back in. And they keep raising one question that nobody can ignore. What happens next? Because whatever it is, it's not going to be small. It's not going to be quiet. And it's definitely not going to go unnoticed. Now I want to hear from you. After everything you've seen, everything that's come out, where do you stand in all of this? Do you think Cardi B was justified in her reaction after everything she claims happened? Or do you think Offset is being unfairly portrayed in a story that's missing key pieces? Because right now, the internet is completely divided. And your opinion? It matters more than you think. So go ahead, drop your thoughts in the comments. Team Cardi or Team Offset? Who do you believe? And do you think this situation is really over or just getting started? Make sure you hit like if this story shocked you. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this. And turn on notifications because if anything new happens in this situation, you already know we're going to cover it. Because something tells me this story isn't done yet. Not even close. Stay tuned. We've reached the point where most people would expect the story to end. But this is exactly where things feel the most unfinished. Because even after everything, the arguments, the accusations, the public statements, there's still one detail that doesn't sit right with anyone watching this unfold. And that's this. Despite all the anger, despite everything Cardi B has said, she hasn't completely detached. And despite everything that's happened, Offset hasn't completely disappeared from her life either. That contradiction is what keeps this story alive. Because normally when something reaches this level, it ends. Clean break. Silence. Distance. But here, there's still tension. Still reactions. Still moments that pull both of them back into the spotlight together. And that's why people are starting to think this isn't just a breakup, it's something deeper. Something that hasn't fully played out yet. Because when you look at everything side by side, the timeline doesn't feel complete. It feels like it's building towards something. And that's where the final twist comes in. Because the biggest question isn't about what already happened, it's about what happens next. Will things calm down or escalate even further? Will they finally go their separate ways or somehow get pulled back into the same cycle again? And here's the part nobody can ignore. In situations this emotional, this public, this intense, there's always another moment coming. Another headline, another reaction, another shift that changes how everything looks. And when that happens, everyone comes back to watch. Because whether people admit it or not, they're invested. They want to see how it ends. But what if it doesn't end? What if this is one of those stories that just keeps evolving? Because right now, everything is still in motion. The legal situation isn't fully resolved. The emotions clearly aren't settled. And the connection between them, whether positive or negative, is still there. And that means one thing. This story still has more to reveal. More twists. More moments. More things that could completely change how we see everything that's happened so far. So while a lot has already come out, we're still not at the end. We're somewhere in the middle of it. And that's what makes it so unpredictable. Because the next update could change everything. And when it does, you already know exactly where you'll hear about it first. So now it's your turn. After everything you've seen in this story, what do you actually think is going to happen next? Do you think Cardi B is completely done this time? Or do you think Offset is going to find a way back into the picture again? Because if history has shown us anything, it's that with these two, nothing is ever as simple as it looks. Drop your opinion below. And don't go anywhere. Because the next chapter of this story might be even crazier than everything you just saw. We've been through every twist, every accusation, every emotional moment in this story. And yet, somehow, it still doesn't feel finished. Because when you step back and really look at everything that's happened between Cardi B and Offset, it doesn't look like a normal ending. It looks like a pause. A moment where everything is quiet on the surface, but underneath, there's still tension waiting to explode again. And that's exactly why people can't stop watching. Because this isn't just about who's right or wrong anymore. It's about what comes next. Will there be another public statement? Another leak? Another moment that changes everything all over again? Because let's be real, every time it feels like this story is over, something new pulls it right back into the spotlight. And the truth is, with emotions this intense, history this deep, and a situation this public, closure doesn't come easy. Not for them. Not for the audience watching. And maybe that's the real reason this story hits so hard. Because it doesn't give you a clean answer. It leaves you thinking, questioning, wondering what really happened behind the scenes and what's still happening right now that nobody's talking about yet. So, before you click away, I want to know what you think. After everything, the allegations, the reactions, the moments we've broken down, do you believe Cardi B had a real reason to reach that level of anger? Or do you think Offset is being misunderstood in a situation that's way more complicated than it looks? Drop your answer below. Because this is one of those stories where the comments section becomes just as interesting as the story itself. And don't forget, hit like if this breakdown surprised you. Subscribe if you want more deep dives like this, and turn on notifications, because if anything new happens, and something probably will, you already know we're going to cover it. Because one thing is clear, this story isn't done. Not even close. You've just seen how far this situation has gone, and honestly, it still feels like we're only scratching the surface. Because stories like this don't just disappear, they evolve. So before you leave, let's make this clear. If even one new update drops, a new statement, a court decision, a leak, or another unexpected twist, you already know this story is going to explode all over again. And when that happens, you don't want to be late. So here's what you need to do right now. Hit that like button if this shocked you, because the more this video spreads, the more people start paying attention to what's really going on. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next breakdown, because trust me, this story isn't over. Turn on notifications so the moment something new drops, you're the first to know. And most importantly, go down to the comments and tell me, are you on Cardi B's side or Offset's side? Because right now, the internet is divided. And your opinion? It's part of this story too. Stay watching, stay ready, because the next update might be even bigger than everything we just covered.